Hello there, my name is Julie and this is stampwithjuliebomb.com. I am coming to you today with a totally spontaneous card tutorial. I actually created this card earlier today and sent it out in the mail to a new team member of mine. I wanted to welcome her to my team. And the card was so much fun to make that I decided I'd make another one and just go ahead and film it so you all can learn how to make this really cool card along with me. So there is so much going on this week. This is actually the week of my stamp club. So I'm prepared for that on Wednesday and looking forward to seeing all my stamp club members. And of course, Celebration is in full swing, where if you purchase $50 or more of product, you get to order something for free. And there's not a lot that's better about stamping products unless they are free. So make sure if you are interested in knowing more about Celebration that you let me know, and I can make sure that you have a brochure in your hands as well. So I'm going to start with this card, and I was inspired by a YouTube video that I was watching. Another Stampin' Up demonstrator, Julie Davison, and her mom, Susan LaCroix, are both demonstrators, mother-daughter team. And Susan showed a card. She had been inspired by another demonstrator named Beth, and I don't know anything more about Beth, but thank you, Susan and Beth, for this card idea. So I am starting out with the card base, and I'm using Calypso Coral. So this is my cardstock base, and it is 5.5 by 10.5. In fact, I'm just going to kind of show you all the pieces, and then we'll jump in and create the card. So my card base is 5.5 by 10.5. We're going to do some scoring on that in just a moment. Then, okay, I have an envelope here for when we get to the end, and we can create a coordinating envelope to go with our card. I do have a piece of the designer series paper. This is cut to 4 inches by 5.25. This panel is going to go on the front of my card. And this lovely paper is from a designer series paper set called You're a Peach. And of course, last month when many of the designer papers were on sale, I got this one at a wonderful discount. I hope you were able to take advantage of the designer paper sale as well. Let me pull these out and just give you a quick peek at some of these papers. So here are some of the fronts. The colors in here: Calypso Coral, Pear Pizzazz, Pale Papaya, Balmy Blue, like really beautiful. Ooh, that one's hiding at the bottom. That's beautiful. And then per the usual, the backs have a little bit more of a subtle design. And look at this one, is super cute with the little baby peaches and also this blue polka dot print we're going to use today. So that's the paper I've chosen. Of course, as with most projects, you could use whichever designer paper you're in the mood to use or whatever you have on hand. So let me set that aside and go back to our piece here. So as I said, the front panel is a piece of that peach paper measuring 4 inches by 5.25. Then I have 3 pieces. These are going to become our flaps. And the way that I did it is I wanted my flaps to coordinate to match the same color as my card base. So these are also in Calypso Coral. There are 3 of them, and they measure 1 3/4 by 4 inches. Then a layer on each of the flaps. So this is going to get mounted on there just like that. Those measure 1.5 by 3 3/4. And I have 3 of those. And then a little bit different from the cards that I was inspired by, I am then putting a layer of designer series paper on top of each of the flaps. The cards that I saw did not have anything on these flaps, except some little cutouts or a word stamped, and instead I'm adding designer paper on them. So my 3 strips, and I did vary the designs of my paper. These measure 1 1/4 by 3.5. All right, so you've got your flaps, you have a layer that's going to go on top of each of the 3 flaps, and then potentially, if you want, a designer series paper layer that is going to go on top of that. All right, so those are our main pieces, and then just some scraps for the stamping and the decorating. So the first thing I'm going to do is get my card base scored. And this is going to get scored at 4 1/4, 5 1/4, and 6 1/4. And I'll repeat the measurement. This cardstock base measures 5.5 inches by 10.5. Scored at 4 1/4, 5 1/4, and 6 1/4. Then we're going to fold this, and I'm going to take that center fold and bring that one up. Grab a bone folder here. And then the other two folds are going to go the other way. So it's like a teeny little 3-piece accordion. All right, so what you end up with is that little fold that sticks up in the middle, and then the 2 folds down on the side of that. All right, now I'm going to give that one more press with my bone folder. And I'm actually going to go ahead and put that Designer Series paper piece on the front. So with some of my liquid glue. And then just off camera, I have my cute little glue stand. I actually created this one out of some retired product, but we're going to be making your own glue stand at Club this week. So if you're coming to Club, be ready to make one of those. Super fun, super cute. All right, this is going to go just on the front, like so. Okay, and then as I'm working through this, I also remember that I'm going to need a strip. I didn't give you these measurements, but I will. When we get to them, I will give you the measurements of 2 more pieces that I'm going to need. And I will have to pause and cut those real quick, so I'll come back to those in just a minute. All right, let's go to our flaps. So I've got the 3 pieces that match my base, and I chose 3 then coordinating colors that match colors in the designer paper. So I have my Calypso Coral pieces and my Pear Pizzazz pieces. I'm just going to attach those as well. This is one of those cards that just does not take that long to make. It's not hard to make at all. Just follow the steps. Anybody can do it. And it has a really good wow effect though. So even though it's simple, it's got a great wow factor. I had some glue on here and I can feel that it's sticky right there. So I'm going to grab an adhesive remover and just get rid of that so I don't have a sticky problem later. There we go. That comes in handy quite often. All right, and we'll repeat that with the other 2 flap pieces. I am using the liquid glue, and I like it because it just gives me a little bit of wiggle room. If I lay my piece down and it's not quite straight, I have time to push it or slide it until it goes where I want it, and then it will set up and dry very quickly after that. All right, so once I have my flaps done, we're going to actually go ahead and put these into the card, and then we'll put the designer paper on them. All right, so you open your card, and what I'm going to do is flip this center fold towards the front of the card, and I'm going to use one of my little flaps, and this one is going to get attached right here. All right, so I'm going to use some tear and tape so that this sticks very, very well and isn't going to come apart in my card. So I'll do 2 rows of it just on one end of the flap. Okay, and while I'm in motion, I'm just going to go ahead and add adhesive on all 3 pieces. try to work smarter, not harder. And I know this tear and tape will tear, but sometimes I have a hard time getting it to tear. It might just because of my nails. So I'm grabbing my little paper snips and just cutting it. But here, I'll do a torn one because you can tear it like so, which is why it's called tear and tape. Okay, and then I am going to just grab my little piercing tool. If this is an old version, if you have the take your pick tool, which looks like this, there are the different ends that you can attach. This one has the little sticky end so you can pick up sequins and such. And right now I actually have the little spatula or scoop it up tip, but this can be traded out to a piercing end as well. So yes, I use mine and it is right here. I happen to have this one just sitting on my desk. So I'm going to grab that and peel off the backing of my tear and tape all around. Set this one aside. I just don't want to get something stuck where it doesn't belong. All right. So I'm back to my card with that little flap folded towards the front. I'm going to turn it so the angle is better for me. I'm actually going to put the sticky part of that right in the center of the card and all the way up to the crease and press that down. Then I'm going to flip the flap to the other side, and this little flap piece that has the adhesive on the back is going to go here. And the way that they're cut, you do have a little bit of room. You don't have to worry about it bumping into this one. There's a little bit of a gap. I can line it up to this center that was scored, and it also isn't sticking out at the top. It just seems to fit just right. All right, and then this third one, this one's going to go the same direction as the top one. So I'm lining it up into the fold below this one, but still inside the edge of the card. All right, so now I have my little flaps. See how that's gonna work? Oh my gosh, it's already so cute, and that is not hard to do at all. So let me grab my 3 strips of Designer Series paper, and let's see how we want these to lay out. I think I want the busier one in the center, and I'm going to switch these two. I'm going to put the neutral background with the little peaches. I'll put that one there, this one here. So back to that liquid glue and attach the designer paper. The DSP, Designer Series paper. As I mentioned, there were several packages of Designer Series paper that were on sale. It ended August 2nd, but what a great deal. You were able to get many of the different packages for under $10. So hopefully you got all stocked up on your DSP and you're ready to start making projects with all that fun paper. Of course, the commonly known as holiday mini catalog, technically it's the July to December catalog, mini catalog, July to December mini catalog that went live on August 3rd. It has absolutely adorable holiday papers. I'm in love already with the Halloween paper, a couple of the different Christmas ones. So you'll be seeing projects made with those products as well pretty soon. Okay, so there are my strips of Designer Series paper on the flaps. I'll show you again. This is the card closed, and then when it opens, those little flaps kind of flutter open. So fun. Okay, so let's do some decorating on the front of the card. And this is where I do need to grab my trimmer. I need to cut a couple pieces of the designer series paper. So I'm going to do a strip of that same little peachy paper. This one. As I'm reaching for it, I may have cut one already. Let me see. Let me see if this is the right size. Let's check it out. Wouldn't that be a great surprise? Okay, so this is the width that I want. It is 1 1/4 inches, but I'm going to trim it down so that it is 4 inches across, so that it goes from side to side of this designer series paper that's already on the card front. So I'm going to cut this at 4 inches. And then I'm also going to grab a piece of that same A Peach paper and grab the blue that matches the inside. That's the front. That's the back of that same piece. And I'm just gonna grab a punch. I have a 2.5 inch circle punch here. You could use a circle punch. You could use a circle die. You could use a stitched circle die, whatever's handy. I just want a circle shape. So I'm going to grab this, and I do know that I'm going to need to thicken this up a little bit. This old trusty punch is getting a little bit tired, and I just don't want it to get stuck on my thin designer paper. So I've just put an extra layer under there, and I'm going to cut this with my punch. Okay, that was just scrap copy paper. But again, I know with some of my old punches, if I go to punch the thin weight of the designer series paper, sometimes it just gets stuck in there. So I just needed to add an extra layer and make it a little thicker. If I was punching out cardstock, no problem. Okay. I've got my pieces that I need for the front, and we're also going to take a moment and do some stamping. So I have my black ink, and what I did is I borrowed stamps and images from this set. This is called In Bloom, and it is a photopolymer stamp set, and it does also have coordinating dies. Not all of my dies are pictured right here because I've already pulled some of them out. We're actually using them at Stamp Club this week. But that's where these images come from. I did not buy the stamp set that matches the peach paper, or maybe I didn't buy it yet, but I wanted to use the paper, but I needed to grab some kind of images. So as you know, it's very easy to just mix and match product. So I will be using the Congrats, You're So Fancy Now, and the You Are Amazing. And then I've also got just kind of like this little flower right there that we'll use as well. All right. So for the front of the card, I'm going to use the Congrats, You're So Fancy Now. And like I said, this was the welcome card that I sent to my new team member just this morning. That was so fun to drop into the mail. All right, and I've got a scrap of basic white cardstock. Got my Stampin' Pierce mat here, and I'm just going to stamp that. I'm going to ink it up a little bit more and stamp on my white cardstock. Okay, then I'm taking one of the label punches that is still available in the annual catalog, and I'm going to punch this out. And then we're ready to put our layers on the front. Let's do our decorating. So I'm going to start with that strip of the designer series paper that has the peaches on it and just glue that to the front. And not quite centered, but maybe a little bit higher than center. about like so, and it stretches perfectly from edge to edge of my designer paper that's already down. I'm going to flip that over and give it a good press. I teach all my stamp students to do this just in case you have ink or even oils on your finger from something. It keeps you from getting a smeary look on your beautiful card front or your image. So just flip it over, press it on the back. Then I'll take the circle that we punched out. Let's add that. All right, and this is going to go, I'm going to line it up kind of with the top edge of that strip and then let it fall below. Those dots look a little bit more symmetrical than I expected, so I'm just going to change the angle. There we go. All right, press that down. Then I'll grab a couple of dimensionals to put on the back of this. So I'm going to use 4 just to evenly pop up my 4 corners. They're not really corners, they're kind of fancy corners, aren't they? All right, and get those backings off. Okay, so this is going to go, you can position it kind of wherever you think it looks good. I'm going to go right about here. Okay, we're going to come back to the front because there's another piece that I'm actually going to die cut. I'm just thinking of this right now that I did on my card this morning. I'm going to take this little bow die and cut a piece of that. So hold on for just a minute, bear with me while I go over and run this through my die cutting machine. All right, in the meantime, I will also grab the celebration brochure so that you can see the front of that. Let me pop that into the camera view. This is the current celebration brochure. And that is going on for 2 months. So it's going on for August and September. And aside from getting to choose free product out of the celebration brochure, you can also take the opportunity to join. It would be great if you wanted to join my team. And if you do it during the celebration promotion, you also get to select for free any of the bundles from the holiday mini catalog, which looks like this. So a bundle is when it's a stamp set paired with a punch or a stamp set paired with dies. And some of them can be quite pricey. And so a bonus in joining during celebration is you get to choose a free bundle along with your starter kit. So there's lots of good things going on in August and September. All right, I have this bow and I cut it out of the die from the In Bloom set. Okay, so we're going to use that. And while I'm up, I'm also grabbing a piece of cardstock for the inside of my card, because we're going to do that next. Okay, sorry for that little backward step. Okay, I've got my bow here. So I'm going to take that and put a glue dot on it. I'm just going to tuck the bow in kind of like right there. And I have some of our Genial Gems here. These have been surprisingly easy to use on all kinds of projects. Even though at first glance they kind of look like they're green and I don't know, yellow or like a peachy color, but they really just kind of lend themselves to lots of different looks. So I have found myself using the Genial Gems an awful lot. So I'm just going to pull a couple of these up. And I'm going to use both colors. Again, even though they're not necessarily the colors in the designer paper, they just kind of go with it. All right, so I'm going to use a number of these, both on the little tag and maybe a couple over here on my blue circle as well. Ooh, come back here. All right, I'm going to, I don't know. I think that's good. I'm going to stop. Quit while I'm ahead. Okay, I have this piece of basic white cardstock. This is 4 inches by 5 1/4. This is where I'm going to stamp the rest of my words for our card. So from the same stamp set in Bloom, I've pulled out the You Are Amazing stamp. And I'm just going to stamp that pretty much in the center of my white cardstock. And without getting my head in the shot, let's see if I can get it somewhat straight and centered. All right, there we go. And then when I got to this point, I thought, it still needs a little something. It was kind of screaming out to me to add something. So I've got Balmy Blue and that tiny little flower, kind of little starburst flower. And I'm going to add a couple of flowers. I'm going to do a blue one on each side. And I'm actually going to stamp this off and stamp another blue one. Oh yeah, love it. Okay, clean that stamp off on my chamois. And I'll grab Pale Papaya, which is also one of the colors in the Peachy Designer Series paper. So this is Pale Papaya. Clean that guy off. And then I'll add some, oh, let's just keep going. Let's put some Pear Pizzazz in here. All the colors. Let's just use a little bit of all the colors. All right, so I'm going to go Pear Pizzazz, and I'm going to do a Pear Pizzazz stamped off. I like it. All right, and then at the risk of doing one step too many, have you ever done that? Then you get the next image down and you're like, I should have stopped. Now I'm going to use the Calypso Coral, but I do know that this stamp's pretty dark, so I'm only going to use it stamped off, so I get a lighter version. Okay, so I'm going to stamp that one off and put one of those over here as well. All right, so this is going to be the inside of our card. Let's attach it. Again, with the liquid glue, a little goes a long way. You want to go around your edges, make sure you get your corners, and a good scribble down the middle. Okay, so this is going to be the inside, so I'm going to flip my flaps over to the left, line up my panel here on the inside, just kind of eyeballing the borders, seeing if it's about as straight as I can get it without making myself crazy. And I'm going to flip it and press. Okay, we have one more step, and only because I just wanted to add a little something to these flaps. You would not even need to. The designer paper is so stinking adorable. You could just leave it like that. But I did some cutouts using the dies that match the In Bloom stamp set. So look at how fun this is going to be. I have the little leafy stem that's cut, and I love these dies, how they have the little perforations in each of the images. Really, really unique. This is die cut out of Pear Pizzazz cardstock. And he's going to go right here. And I have a flower that has been die cut out of Balmy Blue. And a glue dot would be a great choice for this, or your liquid glue, any adhesive really, not any rules. And I'm just going to attach that there. I like it. All right, and then on this flap, let's dress that one up a little bit. So I have a single leaf cut, and oh, see the little detail that the perforation adds? Oh my goodness. Okay, so I'm going to add this one down here. It doesn't really connect with a flower that I'm doing here. I'm just putting random flowers, but I liked the little green leaf. So I've got my leaf there. And then I have a bunch of the smallest die cut flowers from that set of dies. And these have been cut out of Pale Papaya. I can't flip it over. There we go. All right, so we're going to do a couple of these. I'm going to use glue dots because it's going to be faster at this point than gluing each one down. So I've got my glue dot roll, and I'm going to do 5 of these. So an easy way to do it is to just stick it to the exposed dot. I'll just go ahead and do all 5 of them. I actually had trouble with one of my rolls of glue dots and had to kind of fiddle with it. So this one's a little bit wonky. It's kind of loose. I've never had that happen before, but it doesn't affect my glue dots at all. So here I go with my 5 little flowers. All right, so I can peel those off the backing and just start to position those on my card. So the card that I made this morning, just like this, exactly like this, that I already put into the mail, I did take a fine, like really fine black marker and just put a center, like a little black center in it. And I liked it, but after all was said and done, I didn't feel like it really needed it. So I am not going to add the black center on these little Pale Papaya flowers this time. All right, so there I've got the 5 just kind of scattered with a little leaf for color, and it is complete. So this little fancy flap or flirty flap, I don't know what I'm going to call it, probably flirty flap card, has been so much fun to make. I can't wait to make more of them with different colors and different papers. And I hope that you just found it as thrilling as I did, and that you will make a little flirty flap card of your own. In the meantime, thanks for watching, and I will see you next time. My name is Julie, and this is stampwithjuliebomb.com.